person talking about love, man, brother, is the preacher. And it seems nobody's interested in learning but the teacher.
All right. Hey, today we got a pretty special guest today. We have Stan Efferding. Stan Efferding grew up in the Oregon area where I'm from. Graduated from U of O. But before we get talking to him about some of his accomplishments and things he's done in the sport, I want to just touch on a couple of things that are going on. Right now we have the IPL Worlds happening in Vegas this weekend. We also have some contest information about rum. If you're going to plan on entering that competition, your entries need to be in by December 19th. And then finally, some tragic news came out last night about an attack on Paris where 140 people were killed. So I just want to let everybody just take a moment, just think about them, put them in their prayers. It's a super tragic thing that happened, and I hope the president of Paris holds his word and holds these people accountable. So our guest today, Stan Efferding. This guy is the strongest bodybuilder ever. Under your belt, you've won the Emerald Cup and NPC Masters Champion. In 2010, you were the Mr. O World's Strongest Pro Bodybuilder. Is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
And then some of your best competition lifts are you squatted 865, you benched 606, and you deadlifted 837.
That's correct, yeah. 854 with no knee wraps was probably my best day. I did a 905 in training with the squat, but I just wasn't able to replicate that on the platform, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you did this at the 275 weight class, right?
Yeah, I've never been able to get much heavier than that.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing is you're 275, but you look like you should be like 198 because you're so lean. I mean, it's just...
I was always a skinny kid, so I've got that metabolism that's crazy. No matter how much I eat, it seems to almost work against me. I eat more, I lose more weight. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's amazing. My first experience watching you train, you came to Portland probably 7, maybe 8 years ago, and you trained at Elite Performance Center. And watching you squat, I know you worked up close to 900 with just knee sleeves on, and it was amazing to see the amount of work you did and how lean you were. Like I've cut for competitions before, and I feel like dog shit, and I'm at 22% body fat. And you, on the other hand, are super lean. You look like you could jump on a stage and then go do a full power meet and kick everybody's ass in both.
Yeah, I was always trying to eat as much as I could to be strong in powerlifting, but I wasn't able to put on a ton of weight. I think the heaviest I ever got was to weigh in the morning was 290, and for me that was an extraordinary effort. I was pigging out all day long, and I learned a few things along the way, though. I learned if I jacked my protein up too high, that it spun my hamster reel too fast, and I actually ended up losing weight. So I had to be cautious, actually, to keep my protein down a little lower, about a gram per pound. I got it much higher than that. And it was, so thermogenic for me. It would just, I would just be hot all the time, sweating all night. So I did employ a few tactics to get heavier. Remembering that I was 140 pounds in college.
Yeah.
I beat it in my first show at 158. So by the time I got up to the 270s or so, that was a big stretch for me, and it required a lot of eating and a lot of sleeping.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's talk about the Kooler a little bit. You have come up with this invention, and kind of thinking about it, it's a super neat invention to be able for people that are traveling, and not only just like lifters, but even young kids that are participating in sports. Like, what kind of got the wheel rolling on the Kooler?
This goes way back. I can remember training some of the football players from the University of Oregon football team. And I'd always tell them, you need to bring some sort of post-workout nutrition. And I know that there's some skepticism as to the strength of the science regarding the post-workout I know as an athlete, and I know it from training many athletes for almost 3 decades, that you perform better day over day, week over week, when you get an adequate amount of nutrition in consistently. And my thought is that as soon as you're done training, you load up on calories, carbs and protein, and an hour later you go eat again. Even when I was training with Flex, you had me get up at 5 a.m. in the morning to eat my first meal, go back to bed, get up at 8 and eat another. Wow. And that way I was ahead for the day. I could get all my meals in, all my calories in. So you utilize every opportunity that you can. And, they had these guys, just out of probably lack of discipline, would not bring their drinks to the gym. And so I'd always end up toting in, all of the protein powders, et cetera, and so it's kind of something that's been in my head for many years. I've been running around the country working with coaches and their football teams, and one of the biggest complaints they had is they couldn't get their kids. They got them 2 hours a day, and the rest of the time they just don't eat enough, they don't sleep enough, and they want to try and find a way, at least when they come to practice, to have enough water and to have some post-workout nutrition. And so I devised this system with this cooler so they could carry around a gallon of ice water and then have the shaker bottle submerged down in the middle of the cooler to stay cold, so you could have a perishable. You could pre-mix a drink, or you could have chocolate milk, or hell, for kids in kids sports, you could even have cheese sticks and grapes. It doesn't matter, as long as you've got something. So when you're done training, and some of these sessions last 2-3+ hours, you've got plenty of water you've been drinking throughout the workout, and then as soon as you're done, you get some carbs and protein in. And I still think it's a hugely valuable tool to use to be a better athlete. So I just kind of devised this thing. Flex Wheeler and I were at a football practice up in we were helping train some of the kids up in San Jose, and I'd go to the grocery store and I'd get 10 gallons of chocolate milk and throw them in some coolers, bring them to the workout. So immediately when they were done training, they could all drink just chocolate milk. Say what you want, but when you get nutrition in following training, you perform better over time. And so we thought, well, what easier way to for these kids to be able to come equipped to their workouts, to have a jug of water and to have a nice cold shaker bottle full of some sort of post-workout nutrition. So I combined them, designed this thing, and had it engineered, set it off, and had a manufacturer create a model for me, and I brought it to market this year, and it's been really successful. We've gotten it into all 600 Vitamin Shop locations. It's carrying it now, 24-hour Fitness in California, bodybuilding.com, and a host of other sites and smaller chains throughout the country, all distributed through Europa Sports, the major distributor in the States. And it's been a real hit. People love it. When you show it to them and they realize they can have a pre, during, and post-workout drink shake, all kept in one container, all kept cold, it's insulated. And like you said, a lot of people come to me and they're not even athletes. They're truck drivers, they're construction workers, moms that are headed to the park with their kids. And now they've got their daily dose of ice water, and they've got at least a couple other potential drinks or something to stay cold, because they're down inside that ice water container staying cold. So that was the concept. I think it serves a good purpose, but we've really enjoyed running throughout the country this year, pimping our coolers at expos. People seem to love it. So it's at thekooler.com with a K, the Kooler with a K, thekooler.com, and it's available now. So anybody who wants to make sure they get all their, if you're toting around a warm jug of water that you got, those 1-gallon jugs, and double fisted or triple fisted a pre-workout and a post-workout Maggie protein powder, it's a great solution for that kind of thing. So we're proud of it. I'm excited about it. So, keeps me busy, I always got my hands into something, and at least this is in the industry, because my other businesses aren't related to the physique industry. So this is something I've enjoyed, and I like helping people with.
Yeah. What kind of got me to really to think about it, my daughter was playing basketball, and every time we finished a game or a practice, I'm kind of a calendar stuffer, right? Like as soon as practice is over, we're driving somewhere else to go do something else. And I'm not carrying around food and drinks and And it really opened my eyes up, because every time we'd get in my truck to take off, my daughter would say, I'm thirsty and I'm hungry. And it's like, well, crap, we got to wait. You have to wait till I get here, and then I can get you these things. And that's when it opened my eyes up. It's not just for power lifters or bodybuilders or strongman athletes. I mean, it really can be utilized for, an 8-year-old little girl that just got done hooping it up.
Anywhere people sweat. And there's 30 million kids a year sign up for kids sports. And these kids, they're the ones that are out there, and they'll run, and you have to be on top of their, fluid and nutrition intake. They're just going to get more and more tired. You hit the nail right on the head. And we've got a lot of kids that come to us that are softball players, soccer players, football players, that are 12, 13, 14, 15. And this solves that problem. They've got their water, they've got their post-workout shake. Most kids, and here's the reason why I like to have it immediately following training, is because most kids, when they get done with practice, like you said, they jump in a car, they head here, they head there, they got other things to do, and it might be a couple hours before they get any decent meal in. So you can hit the post-workout shake, and then now you've got a couple hours to kill before you really need to get a great meal in, and you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, and it makes it simple because you're carrying this in just one device.
Yeah, and it stays cool.
Yeah.
It's insulated, and that's the thing about whatever shaker bottle or however many shaker bottles or however many removable bottoms you have with protein powders, and they're all warm. There's no method to which to keep them cold, and this is an insulated container that you put ice water in. So now you've got basically a little refrigerator unit for your trigger for multiple shakes throughout the day. So it's a huge benefit. I think we're going to. It's brand new, and there's nothing ever been like it on the market. So there's a bit of an educational barrier now, but everybody we show it to, at some point when we take it apart to assemble it, show them what's going on inside, their eyebrows rise up, their mouth drapes open, they're like, oh.
Yeah.
And that's the response we get. Problem is it's difficult to educate people one at a time on the deal. So we're working towards doing some marketing on TV now and stuff, so we can do reach more people and show them what it's like.
Yeah, I remember watching your video right when the product first came out. You kind of did a demo on YouTube, and I watched it, and it kind of took 2 or 3 times of watching it before that light bulb broke.
Yeah. To have multiple shakes inside one container. Yep, it's new. We're excited about it. I think it'll catch on. I think it'll be a big deal. You see lots of kids carrying their little Coleman 1-gallon coolers out on the football field, and I think that's great. You got to have your your hydration. You got to have your water. But we think for an advanced athlete that you definitely need to have nutrition too. And it's one of the only things on the market right now that solves that problem.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many different designs did you come up with before you had your final product?
Oh man, it was quite a bit, and then there's some limitations in terms of what the molding process can do. So you have to work within the confines of what can be created through an injection mold system. So we were constantly fiddling with it, but we had some good engineers and went back and forth. The difficulty in working with a Chinese manufacturer is that they don't bring anything to the table. They're great copycats, but they're not very creative, and so we had to keep drilling away and sending it back. So it took a year and a half just to come up with a prototype.
Wow.
So it took me longer to get to the market than I thought. I had to keep getting samples and test them and redesign, resubmit. Each of those takes time. Any change you make takes 30, 60 days to create a new prototype. So it was a lot. I can't think, but I was just scratching notes on napkins and pieces of paper and taking photos of it and emailing it over to their engineer and saying, now this is how I want it to work. I'd run all around and buy other people's products and ship them over there and say, this is how this needs to screw on and this is how this needs to fashion and fit. So we've finally come up with this model. And I've got 2 more coming out since then. I've got a Kooler 2.0 and a Kooler Sport that has variations of the same model, because the creativity process never ends.
Yeah. So that was going to be my next question, but I think you answered it. If knowing what you know now, going back to the beginning of the Kooler, would you redo it?
Yeah, no, I think I waited long enough to where I got a good product when I brought it to the market. It did what I wanted it to do, and it's very user friendly. So I'm happy with what we brought out to the market. There's a couple little things that I wanted to change moving forward. I did the Kooler Sport's a smaller model because some of the older kids or some women don't necessarily need a full gallon. The Kooler 2.0's got a couple of neat additions to it. I don't release it for about 4 months, so I won't get into it too deep. But
Yeah.
It's just little things that people who exercise a lot find convenient, and so that's what we're working towards now, just to keep it fresh and current.
So you're trying to solve the problem to how many stinky ass shaker cups are sitting on the floorboard of somebody's vehicle in the middle of summer.
That's one of the problems. Yeah, one of those things.
Yeah.
Get back there and rot. You just throw them away. You don't want to keep them.
I know. I've thrown away thousands of shaker cups because they stink, or you open it up and there's a bunch of mold in it, and it's like, I'm not dealing with it. I'm just going to throw it away.
That's right.
Well, let's jump into some of your lifting. You used to be a soccer player, and you kind of touched on a minute ago that you were walking around at 140 pounds.
Yeah, call it.
Man, what kind of got you in the direction of starting to train to get big?
Oh boy, it's like any skinny kid story. I just, I looked at the magazines and saw the guys in there that had created some great physiques, and I just wanted to look like that. And it was that simple. I just wanted to be more muscular, and I just started this journey. And unfortunately, as I've said many times, back then we didn't have the internet, so I had very little information. I used to sit up in the science library for hours every evening scrolling through microfiche. That's how old I am.
Wow.
And I would read every single thing I possibly could about training, but and of course you had the leader magazines back then. I'd read every page and highlight with a highlighter and fold the pages down and reread them. But some reason or another, there just wasn't enough of a consensus about and I would train too much and eat too little.
Yeah.
And for 3 years, I toiled away, and I went from 140 to 158 pounds. I competed at 158 at my first show, 20 years old after 3 years of training.
Wow.
Which is sad progress. It's really pathetic. Any trainer who only got 18 pounds out of their athlete in 3 years should probably find a different career.
Yeah, but back then, there's no Facebook or YouTube. I mean, you're really just winging it based on probably what.
Winging it.
Yeah.
Nah, you just thought that the more you lifted, the more you grow. And now I start every seminar, especially with high school kids, asking them if how many of you know that lifting weights builds muscle, and they all raise their hand. I'm shaking my head. I'm like, nope. Lifting weights breaks down muscle because I want to, get the message across that building muscle is about eating and sleeping and recover to that, and in response to that stimulus. And that's what young athletes don't do well enough.
Yeah.
And even advanced athletes, it's hard, very, very hard to eat enough food to fuel, a 240, 250, 260, 270 pound body. It's very hard. Imagine being 350.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very hard to fuel those bodies, and it takes, some of the greatest strength athletes and bodybuilders. You talk about Ronnie Coleman and Kai Green, Mariusz Puchanowski. These guys were voracious eaters. It was one of the benefits that they had is that they could pile down a lot of food, and that's what you needed. And I've talked to many, many professional bodybuilders over the years who tell me, I just can't eat like that. And to the point where they're sick, but they can't put on any more weight because they can't eat enough. And that's a very important factor. At some point, you have to get enough fuel to support that muscle mass. There's no drug you can take. There's no special workouts you can do that's going to maintain 270 pounds of muscle unless you can put down an enormous amount of high-quality calories.
Yeah, that's interesting because I think a lot of people have that mentality of, I'm just going to go into the gym and I'm going to kick ass and then we'll see what happens. But there's so much more into it. And somebody like you, I can imagine even probably when you were competing like in the Emerald Cup or doing the Strongest Bodybuilder Ever competition, you were still doing other stuff. It wasn't like you're just sitting at home and just eating and training. I mean, you've been a busy person your whole life.
Yeah, but when I did my best, and I often say that I'm a bit of a hypocrite because I tell people what needs to be done, but I had the time and the resources when I was my best, when I was training with Flex Mueller and got my pro card, when I was training with Mark Bell and set my records. That is all I was doing.
Yeah.
I had moved into a hotel room across the street from the gym, and I lived there for 2 months. And I ate, slept, and trained. I would eat 8 times a day, over 4, sometimes 5 pounds of steak a day, 8 meals. I was sleeping, probably 10, 11 plus hours a day, 9 every night, an hour after every workout.
Wow.
That's all I did was eat, sleep, and train when I trained with Flex. And then that's all I did when I went to Mark Bell and moved into an extended stay near the gym. And that's all I did, eat, sleep, and train. And I went to therapy almost on a daily basis for the strain that was imposed upon you from weight training. I had, both inside and outside the gym. It was, that's all I did. Eat,
Man,
sleep, train.
That's awesome.
And so, I tell people, here's what you need to do to get better. And then I have to start to step back and realize people have jobs. They have family. They have financial constraints. And I didn't have any of those things restricting my progress. And so, yeah, I was able to succeed at a very high level, but I also didn't have to do anything but that. That's a great place to be. But, how do I tell somebody else how to succeed at that level when they have constraints I didn't have?
Yeah. You have bills or a job or something going on that you're still needing to do.
Yeah. No, and some people have done very well, very, very well with all that going on. But that wasn't me at the time. When I did my very best, I was quite successful when I was running my businesses and staying busy doing a lot of other things. But at a whole nother level, from about a 2070 total to a 2226 or a 2300 total, the difference really was. But that's all I did.
Yeah. How difficult was it for you to be able to do bodybuilding and powerlifting, to you were extremely competitive in both, and at times it always seemed like you could do a bodybuilding show and compete in the same weekend or at least in the same month, which is amazing.
Yeah. Now I did focus entirely on bodybuilding for the 2 months before. Of course, I'm lifting all the time. I'm eating all the time. I'm sleeping well all the time, and I'm maintaining a lot of mass. But the last 8 weeks before I competed in Masters Nationals, all I did was bodybuilding. I didn't lift a single heavy weight because that's counterproductive to hypertrophy, really, to do singles, doubles, triples. And that was, just focused on bodybuilding. And I had to come down to, I think I stepped on stage at 250. And then when I trained with Mark, it was just powerlifting. I didn't do any bodybuilding movement. I believe in specialization. And I think that anything that you do for a particular meet needs to be focused on. You send the right message. I can't be in there benching, doubles and triples and then turning around and trying to do sets of 15 on the incline dumbbell press because I want to maintain some hypertrophy.
Yeah.
It sends the wrong message at some point when you use the off season for hypertrophy if you want to do that. But if you're training for a powerlifting meet, you need to specialize. And so I would eat a lot of food and I would gain a lot of weight. And even though I would stay, relatively fit, there's a significant difference between 250 and 275 in terms of stage appearance. And so, I would stay pretty hard, but my waist would go up probably 6 inches at least for powerlifting and then back down for bodybuilding. And that was the most significant change for me, was probably interstitial fat, intramuscular or interstitial fat around in the midsection. While I might show abs, I was still, my waist would get up to close to 40 inches, whereas it would be closer to 32 on a bodybuilding stage. And I could just hold it in real well, I suppose.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're probably the only one that would notice that because, man, the few times that I've seen you in person, I mean, it looks like you could step on stage in about 4 minutes and knock it dead. So it's you definitely hold it well.
My problem has never been conditioning. My problem has always been trying to hold on to mass. And so, I stay pretty lean year round, but I'm eating like crazy just to hold that. That's always been my bane. A lot of people ask me how to You know? I have just the opposite problem. My problem is that when I wake up in the morning, I realize I need to get through 5,000 calories of high quality food today.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're sitting there just gumming your food. You know, it's a lot harder. The training is always the fun part. To me, that's the easy part. It's the rewarding part. The eating has always been the hard part. Eating enough, often enough, consistently enough to support your body. I'll wake up every morning. I keep track of everything, and I'll weigh myself in, and that'll tell me. You know, I know if I ate 5 meals yesterday, or 6 or 7, and the quantity of food that I ate. I'll know, you know, where I'm falling short. It's always in the nutrition, always in lack of calories.
So, talking about nutrition, probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, you posted a video on Instagram talking about releasing some rhino protein. And so I was super intrigued, right? You know, I'm waiting, and here you pull out. And you said it's from Costco, and it's only $9.99, and you pull out some steaks.
Yeah, you know, and I've said this many times. I'm not a big supplement guy. Never have been. I think that they're convenient and they taste good, but they'll never be food. And you cannot get. You know, Jay Cutler even said this many years ago. He said he was never able to gain or maintain a significant amount of body mass on protein powders. He always needed red meat. And he was specific enough to say chicken and fish, too, needed red meat. And I found the same thing from experience. And that if I took a bunch of protein powders, I could only get so far.
Yeah.
And if I ate a bunch of chicken breasts or white fish, I could only get so far. And when I kept steak in my diet, I was able to get to hold on to much more mass, gain weight, get stronger. And so, you know, I've always been a big advocate of red meat. It's not saying supplements don't have their place. I'm saying they're not food and never will be. And if you walk into the gym and you have a choice between a squat rack and a leg extension, I'm picking the squat rack every time.
Yeah.
And if it's time for me to eat and I got a choice between some protein powder and a steak, I'm picking the steak every time.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And when you get down to the last 8 weeks before a meet, you need to make those choices every time. You know, I don't play around with one or the other. And when I trained with Flex, I didn't drink a single protein shake, not one. My entire 8 or 9 weeks I was down there, I ate steak almost every meal. I had some chicken post-workout just because I didn't want the fat in with my carbs.
Yeah.
But 8 meals a day, sometimes nearly 5 pounds of top sirloin a day. Got to the point where my teeth got loose from chewing on the steak.
That's a lot of food.
It's a lot of food. And so I switched to chicken and fish for a couple of days because my teeth were loose. And I went into the gym, and Flex would weigh me every single day, and we would do workouts, and we'd post after the workouts. And after about 2 days of eating chicken and fish, Flex looked at me and he said, "What's wrong?" I'd lost about 4 pounds. And he says, "You're flat." He goes, "Your strength is down. Your weight's down." And my training partner was there with me, and Flex goes, "What's going on?" And my training partner looks up at the ceiling and all around, and when we get to eye contact with Flex, I'm like, "My teeth are hurting. They're loose. My teeth are actually loose and sore from eating steak." I said, so I switched to chicken and fish. And he said, "Suck it up." He said, "Figure out another way to cook that stuff." And so I started crock potting it so it would be softer. But that was the fact. I went back to steak, and within 2 days, I gained 4 pounds back, and I was fuller, and I was stronger in the gym. You know, that was just that's just my personal experience. You know, I know people get out there and say there's some great professional athletes that are vegans, and great for them. But that's not the path that worked for me, and it's not the one I've seen most of the time work for the athletes that I've trained. They seem to thrive off of red meat. Even women that I trained for bikini shows, when you switch them to red meat, they have less bloating, they've got more energy, more B vitamins, more creatine, more higher quality protein source, less waste. I put sodium in their diet so that it's got better endurance, more blood volume. Those things are important to me for training, and I think that they should be included in a lot of athletes' programs.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I heard you talk on Mark Bell's podcast about increasing sodium to increase your red blood cells, to give you more energy.
Yeah, thickens your blood.
Yeah.
Increase your blood volume is what it does.
And another thing you touched on that is when you go out to restaurants, you're very particular about what you're ordering, and often you would just pack your own meat, or you would, wherever you stopped, you just roll into a store and and buy a cooler and a bunch of stuff to get you through for however long you're going to be gone. I mean, that takes like a ton of discipline. You know, a lot of people, I think, when they go out of town, it's so easy just to roll into a Mexican restaurant or, you know, a sushi restaurant or wherever, just to find, you know, something where I'm going to spend $25 on dinner and call it good. That's like a whole new level of being able to sit in a hotel room and prepare your own meals, even when you're out of town.
Yeah, and you know, that's one of the hard parts about training, particularly when you travel, is maintaining enough sleep and enough food and enough frequency, enough quality of food. So the logistics become a big deal. I was always good at the logistics. I would plan ahead, you know, when I had to be at the airport, when I was going to land, and you know, rent a car, where I was going to be. I timed it all out, and I knew when I had to have my meals, what I had to prep and take with me. When I landed, you know, I would eat, and I would get in the car, and I'd go to Walmart, and I'd get a cooler, and I'd get all my food, and I'd stay at an extended stay that had a kitchen, and I'd go home and cook. You know, there's a lot of great athletes that would just get their meals shipped to them. You know, Michael Hearn's got his Icon Meals group that sends him his stuff everywhere he goes, so he never, you know, wants for meals, and that's a great plan. You know, because what happens is we start to go to restaurants, you start to lose in terms of quality of food, particularly if you go to fast food places.
Yeah.
The meats they use there is an 80% chub. It's almost the quality of a hot dog in terms of its protein and fat content. You know, in most of the places I go, they want to cook your food in vegetable oils, and that shit's horrible. Canola oil, safflower oil, all those vegetable oils, those are horrible. Those wreak havoc on your body.
Yeah.
And you know, if I've got anything to say about it, I'm going to try and make sure that I'm getting in, you know, good quality meals. And I find that if I do have to stop at fast food places for, you know, a day or two here and there, I actually end up coming home and have lost weight because I haven't had the good quality of meats and meals that I need. It's one of the reasons that I eat lean steak, like top sirloin, is because my body utilizes all of it. It's not a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Another reason I'll use like white rice as opposed to brown rice is because I'm not, you know, obstructing protein absorption or leaching valuable minerals and electrolytes from my body. You know, I want to take in the carbohydrate that my body's going to utilize all of it efficiently, and it doesn't bloat me because I'm training frequently, and I need my meals to be digested. I need to have another meal in 2 or 3 hours. Eat a pizza, good luck eating in 2 hours. It doesn't happen like that. You know, the fats that sit there in your stomach, and you know, next thing you know, it's 4 or 5 hours have gone by, and you're still full from all that bread and wheat and cheese and, you know, stuff like that. I can't do it. You know, I stay away from wheat products for that reason, because you know, breads and stuff, because they have a cumulative effect, and they start to build up in your large intestine, and you've got, you know, all this hard to digest wheat product in your diet. Whereas you take in a white rice, it's so clean. 2 hours later, you're starving. You want to eat again? You know, and for me, frequency is important, and the quality of the meals. And I don't want to be running to the bathroom from eating, you know, cheeseburgers all the time and not being able to get good quality food. So the choices are huge, you know, and the planning ahead is huge. The logistics is huge. Even when I was in college, I'd pack all my meals and take them to class in Tupperware, eggs and chicken. Imagine popping open a Tupperware full of hard-boiled eggs in the back of a classroom.
That made a lot of people happy.
Yeah, 7 rows up. You know, they're turning around looking over their shoulders, see what's going on back there. And I'm, you know, smiling, holding my hard-boiled egg up. But it's been like that for me for so long now that it seems normal. You know, I don't mind eating out of Tupperware. It's not a big deal to me. So.
I think it's a real important lesson for new lifters to understand, you know, that some of the restaurants that they may choose while they're traveling, these restaurants don't think about maybe the quality of food. They're thinking about what's the most cost-effective way to get that plate in front of you. And you really, from understanding from somebody like yourself, you really need to put your nutrition ahead of whatever's cost-effective for a restaurant, and maybe spend the extra time just to prepare your own stuff.
Yeah, and I know there's a big argument about clean eating versus if it fits your macros, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, not to reiterate everything I just said, but when you get in a low-quality meal that's high in fat and, you know, hamburger buns, et cetera, you're just not going to be able to eat as frequently, and your body's not going to process the food as efficiently, and it's going to make your workout suffer. You know, I don't think that that's anything that you can, you know, that you can't not address.
Yeah.
You know,
The gain train.
yeah, the gain train. But you know that there's nothing to be had from that if the nutrition aspect is. It all goes together, but you know, let one of those things fail. You know, I said on Mark Bell's episode, if you're sleeping 5 hours a night and taking creatine, you're a fucking idiot. You know, and
Yeah.
I just believe that if the big things, the sleeping well. You know, I was just at a seminar a couple of weeks ago with a couple of PhDs in recovery, and that's what they started with, and that's what they spend the most time on, with sleep. They're talking about what's the best way to recover from workouts, and they talked about sleep, they talked about nutrition, and they talked about active recovery. Sleep was one of the biggest things. And then recently, who's the coach from University of Michigan? He said, all my boys are on these steroids. They're on these 4 natural steroids, is how he talks, right?
Yeah.
And number one, natural steroid number one, he said sleep. You know, these guys are huge. These dudes in Michigan are huge. And they don't get that way without, you know, some sort of discipline and focus on what's most important. He said number 2 is milk, and not that skim milk shit, he said. You know, whole milk. Number 3 was water. Number 4 was steak. And then, you know, I asked the coach from the University of Michigan why his boys are so big and strong. He said 4 natural steroids: sleep, milk, water, steak.
Amazing.
And I'm saying this for 30 years. And you go through all these phases where people just want to jump up and down and, you know, talk about all this other measly little crap. And really, the fundamentals are the same. The things haven't changed. People are so busy out there trying to ride these waves. The fundamentals have not changed. Not in 30 years, not in 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm gonna make sure that I give my girlfriend your phone number, so when I'm taking naps throughout the day, it's because you said so.
Naps are huge. I can't even tell you how strong I get when I remember to take, when I include naps. And you know, they did talk in their research about, you know, I napped a little longer. I napped about an hour twice a day when I was training flex, when I was training Mark. But they said you're around 20 minutes is adequate, and that prevents you from getting into your REM sleep, so you don't wake up groggy. And they really said, and you can also, another article I read some time ago talked about, you can train your body to be more efficient at naps. You just lay down and turn your timer on to 20 minutes, and whatever happens, happens. The first few times you probably won't even fall asleep. Just there your brain, you're running crazy. Over time, if you do it consistently enough, your body starts to realize, hey, I only got 20 minutes. And you start falling asleep earlier and earlier and earlier. And the next thing you know, you're sleeping 1 minute. You get 19 full minutes of sleep, your alarm goes off, bam, you wake up. Things are great. Those naps are huge. And I got so strong off the naps and sleeping. As you train harder and harder and harder, your sleep demands are going to increase. There's no question, just like your food demands are going to increase. So, you know, you need to account for that. 7 hours might be great for the average person. If you're squatting 800 pounds, you're going to need 9. And you're probably going to need a nap too.
Yeah.
You know, in addition to the increased nutrition and the special focus on recovery, active recovery and mobility, etc., all the things that I do to try and keep my body pliable. But those are the biggies. Those are the biggies. And people always want to ask me questions about all this little shit that doesn't matter. Carb timing and, you know, I mean, I don't care, micros, macros.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. If you don't have the sleep down, if you don't have enough calories, you're not consuming enough quality calories, then don't worry about all that other stuff yet. Focus on what's important. People never miss their creatine. You know, they never miss their pre-workout. Oh, they can't even train without their damn pre-workout.
Yeah.
You know, but how many times do you miss a full night's sleep?
Yeah.
It's stepping over $100 bills to pick up nickels. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. You're just not serious about it, as far as I'm concerned.
You know what's interesting, and I thought it was just maybe my old age, but probably the last like 6 weeks or so, I've really ramped up my training, and I bench heavy on Saturdays. And so we bench fairly early in the morning on Saturdays, you know, 10 in the morning or so. Usually goes till about 12:30 or 1. But the last 6 weeks, I've come home and I've taken a nap right after training every time. You know, I'll eat first and then I come home and sleep. And I thought it was just because I was getting old. But it makes complete sense. You know, my training is going about as heavy as I've gone in the last year. And, you know, my body just needs it.
No, yeah, absolutely. You increase your work demands, you're going to have to increase your recovery. And sleep's the first and foremost. You have to get yourself up to 8 plus 9 hours sleep at night and then a nap every afternoon. I was training 2 a days with flexes, so I was taking 2 naps. Like you say, go to the gym, eat a meal, drop down. And then even overnight, you know, if I didn't want to go a full 9 hours without a meal, I would get up at 4 or 5 in the morning to go pee or something, you've got a meal prep sitting right there waiting for you.
Yeah.
You eat it and then go back to bed for 3 hours, and that way you aren't behind on meals. If you get up and your first meal's at 8, then it's hard to get all 8 meals in before 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And so if you get up at 5, jam a meal, go back to sleep, get up at 8, you're already on your second meal. You got to stay on it like that. Now, is 8 meals better than 4? Probably not if it's the same number of calories. But I couldn't get enough calories in 4 meals. That's the thing. I needed 8 just to absorb enough calories. And if you sit down and try and pound down 1,500 calories in one meal, good luck digesting.
Yeah.
If I can get, 700-800 calories of quality food in one meal, I'm hungry an hour later. 2 hours later, I'm eating.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's kind of the system you need to be thinking about, so that everything can improve. The training, the eating, the sleeping. Those are the big things. Those are the monsters.
So you are recently became a father.
Yeah, I've got a 3.5-year-old daughter and 1.5-year-old son. Boy, it's been a blessing. I have a 16-year-old stepson. Been raising since he was 1 year old. So, I've always had good family in my life. But boy, I tell you, you get busy quick.
Yeah. How
when kids come along.
How has that changed your priorities with like going to the gym and obviously your business stuff supplies a living for your family, but you're going to go to work, but with all the extra stuff that you do, I mean, you're doing seminars, you go to expos, you're going to different gyms and training, and you're doing things like this, being on a podcast. All of that stuff kind of takes away from the family. How is that balance with you?
Yeah, fortunately for me, I was about done training or competing when I had my daughter. I'm 14 now, so I had my daughter when I was 44.
Mm-hmm.
44 and a half. And I only did my last meet when I was 45. So I'm almost 3 years out of competition. And that was part of what we talked about earlier, is that there are sacrifices to be had when you're trying to compete at a very high level. There's things that you need to do that you probably can't or won't, because it'll take too much time away from your family, or it could potentially compromise your job. Most people can't take 2 months off of work and go live in a hotel next to the gym. And they can't afford to pay Flex Leader $5,000 a month to training.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. Which, people squawk, well, $5,000 a month. Well, Flex came and trained me nearly 3 hours a day, every single day. So it came down to about $50 an hour.
Yeah.
So I got a deal. I got a great deal on that. And Flex has, been, like a brother to me ever since. And the people will squawk about that, but I'll tell you, I can't remember. I think it was Greg Knuckles at the speech just a couple weeks ago. He said, or maybe in a recent article he wrote, he just said that there's a couple of the most important things you can do as an athlete, because you and I kind of talked about this before the radio show started. We're not very good at judging our own levels of intensity, et cetera, et cetera. We're generally better at making excuses for ourselves. And when you get a great coach, this is what Greg touched on in this article, when you get a great coach and a great training partner, things change for you for the better. A great coach and a great training partner will push you further than you will push yourself. They're invaluable. And, I was happy to pay great coaches and to be around great training partners. I had Keith Williams come out to California and train with me the whole time I was at Flex. And we competed every day like madmen. And, we fought out. We counted everybody's reps. We would time each other's rest periods so nobody would get up over on somebody else for even 5 seconds. Like, come on, it's your turn, you're up, let's go.
Yeah.
So that's valuable training. And then with powerlifting, when I went to Mark's, he had some great lifters in there. He had some big-time benchers, big-time squatters. Dan Green would come over and train. Every day was a competition in there. And Greg said something interesting. I was talking to him the other week. He said, probably far and above any of the programs that Westside Barbell ever came out of Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons, he says he thinks it's a lot less about the great programs and a lot more about the level of competition, the environment, the atmosphere that he created there. When you've got that many savage lifters in one room, fighting every single day in training to be the best, care. Doesn't matter. Those are neat and all. But even a bad program with some extraordinary intensity is going to outperform a great program with mediocre intensity.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's interesting. I've noticed the times, like we talked about before, is, I'd go to Mark Bell's gym. The level that you bring just stepping in there, I mean, it gives you goosebumps because you know you're going to have a good day. You know you got to go in there and kick ass. And one of the things that really kind of sunk in with me when I step in there is that, I want these guys to understand where I'm at when I leave. Maybe they've seen a YouTube video, or maybe they have an idea of this guy that walks around and benches without his feet touching the ground. I want to walk away from there with them going, man, that was quite the show. And it does bring you to a whole nother level.
Absolutely. And there's always somebody in there that's doing about what you're doing or better.
Yeah.
So you can't go in there and underperform. I train here in town with a girl named Brittany Pryor, and she's a fucking savage. She's deadlifts 551 pounds.
Yeah, I've seen it.
She'll walk out 475 on the squat and triple. So, yeah, I'm a strong guy, but you got to step up your game to add a plate to Brittany's numbers. I was doing some weighted carries yesterday, and Brittany comes out and she loads 405 on the trap bar and starts walking back and forth with it. And I was thinking to myself, man, I'll just do 405. And then Brittany loads it up and does it, and I'm like, fuck. Now I got to do 500.
Yeah.
So I'm saying they don't have to be as strong as you, but to be a savage, like when you're training with a 165er. We have Bruce is competing this weekend in the IPL deal. He'll walk out and knock down 500, 550 squat at 165.
Yeah.
And then I walk up to the bar at 275. I can't be squatting 450. It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you still got to bring it.
You got to add a plate.
Yeah.
And then people say if you're the strongest guy in your group, get in your group. But strength is relative. When you got a woman in your group that's deadlifting 550 and repping out 400. Or if you got a 165 in your group that's walking out 550s, it pushes you to work harder. You have to be around people who are doing savage shit.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
And the biggest piece of that, especially when you got to go back and do it again next week, here's the big piece. Because like when you go to Mark Bell's, or like when I know that Dan Green's going to show up and squat with me or deadlift with me, that was the day I squatted 905. Dan Green was, and he just kept going. Dan Green squatted 700, and it was a fucking grinder. I don't know if you ever watched the video of my 905 squat at Mark Bell's. You should watch it sometime. And watch Dan Green squat. He's always been a great grinder.
Uh-huh.
He squats 700 as a grinder. And I'm like, he's about capped out. Right? Throws on 750. All right. Hits 750. Grinder. Throws on 800. I'm like, no fucking way. I'm walking around shaking my head. I'm like, 750 was everything he had. Throws on 800. Does the same fucking thing. And so I'm up there, I got to keep going. That was the day I hit the 905. Same thing with that 815 pull. Dan gets up and he tries to pull 815. It was a different day. And we got a video of this, the two of us up there training.
Mm-hmm.
He tries to get up and he pulls 815. He didn't block. He wasn't able to block it out. Comes about the knees and drops it. And so I'm like, yeah. I got this. Well, then he turns around and comes back and he pulls it. Pulls 815. The next week, he shows me a picture of his hamstring. It's black from ass to heel, or the back of his knee. His hamstring's black. And I'm like, when did that happen? The second deadlift? He goes, no, on the first one.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he tore his hamstring on the first deadlift. He said, I figured it was already torn. I couldn't tear it any worse. And it just kind of takes you to a whole new level in terms of how hard am I pushing myself? What's my intensity? So, I had some of my best lifts up there training with some of the strongest people. And here's the thing I was trying to get at. When you prepare for something like that, when you do a big squat on a Saturday with Dan Green, and next Saturday you're going to come back and you're going to do a big deadlift, you start preparing right away. If you know Saturday you're going to do a huge bench or a huge squat or a huge deadlift, sometime around Wednesday, you're maximizing everything, every meal, every hour of sleep, everything focused solely on that Saturday. It would even get to the point where I knew I had to go in and squat high 800s or something. That the day before the squat, like Friday, you couldn't talk to me. Yeah. I was completely zoned out. I wouldn't say a word. I was quiet. I was focused. I was, it's all I would think about. And that big squat today. It was an 865 or 875 or 900 or whatever we were squatting that day. And immediately after doing that, it was like the clouds cleared and the sun came out and everybody was singing and dancing. And
Yeah.
I wanted to go eat, and everything was great. My whole world changed. And then 5-6 days later, the day before I had to do it again, same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you know you have to perform at a very high level against some great athletes, you don't just show up that day. You're preparing for that at least 48, 72, maybe 5 days prior. And that's what I think is great about those environments.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely is something to be said about surrounding yourself with the right people. You've obviously have done it and have been extremely successful in everything you've done. So hopefully some new lifters can take away from some of the information you've thrown out there with the eating and sleeping, training environments, and put it to good use. And, I think one of the biggest things that I'd like to see is, now that we do have the internet, we have YouTube and Facebook, is that maybe there's going to be a guy at U of O right now listening to this that is going to be able to take the information you gave, and maybe he's 140 pounds now, but maybe after taking some of the information you've thrown out there, maybe he's going to go out and just be a beast, and he'll be the next Stan Efferding or Eric Spoto or whatever he decides to do.
Yeah, the challenge now is that people want too much too quick.
Yeah.
They're not willing to put the work in. I was a slow gainer. It took me many, many years. And you have to apply those disciplines day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out, year in, year out, and decade in, decade out.
Yeah.
It becomes that important. You can't do this thing, train really hard for 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then take some time off. I'm going on vacation. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. You have to keep after it. I used to say at the beginning of the summer, it was always harder to train and eat enough during the summer to gain weight. And I always knew if I came back, or if I stayed in the gym and worked hard and ate well, and maybe I didn't gain a single pound for 4 months, June, July, August, September. But when everybody came back to the gym to get back into it, I'd have stayed the same and they'd have lost 10, 15 pounds. So I was really 10, 15 pounds ahead. And then as winter came and I was able to eat more and put on my winter coat, I was still ahead. And I said that year after year. I watched guys come to the gym, basically look the same year over year over year. And I would start passing people, one after the other, 150 pounds, 160 pounds, 170 pounds. I still remember I got to 200 pounds. I thought it was huge.
Yeah.
I jumped on the scale when it tipped 200. And that was, of course, at the end of the day after like 9 meals. I'm like, 200 after a big cheese pizza,
Yeah.
A giant shake with whole milk and ice cream, and I'm like, I'm 200 pounds. I thought I was huge. And then, then reality hits when you go down to Gold's Venice and you walk in and there's, Paul DeMeo or the rest of those fucking freaks.
Yep.
And you're like, damn, shit, I got to start all over again.
I'm only 200 pounds.
I'm only 200 pounds.
Yeah.
You're walking around just jacked, 250, 260. You're like, God damn. And that was a long time coming for me to get there. Like, how the hell am I ever going to get there? I never would have suspected. You look at pictures of me in my first show, you never would have suspected I'd be able to carry 275, 280, and I couldn't even bench 135 in college.
Yeah.
You never would have suspected I'd be a 600-pound bencher. Never would have suspected. But I was doggedly determined. Consistent was the big thing. And those are the two big overriding things: consistency and intensity. Consistency and intensity. Now, I was fortunate always to have great training partners that I was chasing, and we trained. We just trained beastly. The things that we did in the gym. I look back at it, and it's not just recently with Flex or with Mark Bell, but in all those sessions I had with those great powerlifters. But way back when I was coming up, I trained with Aaron Madron, IFBB Pro. He used to call him Mr. Intensity. He was a savage trainer, but we would go in there and do things that were crazy. And when I burned through the bodybuilders and started training with the football players, the full other level of intensity, those guys, man, they'll train hard. They're terrible at eating and sleeping, but they will work their asses off. Guys like Keith Williams and Dino Filia that I trained with back in the early 90s. So I've been fortunate. And if you're going to the gym, and I don't want to be an ass, but if you're training with your girlfriend, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get to where I was fortunate to have until you find yourself some training partners. You know, like I said about the West Side deal, find yourself some savages. Get in that kind of environment. You know, I built a gym in Seattle that was a savage gym, dumbbells up to 200 pounds, monoliths, you know, the specialty bars everywhere. Great gym up there. Gabe Moan bought it from me. It's G Standard gym now up there, but it's a savage gym. It's a powerlifter's bodybuilder's paradise. And when I built it, and I put everything in there that anybody could ever want to be, you know, to compete in bodybuilding and powerlifting, I started calling my friends and say, hey, when are you going to come over and train? Oh, no, I don't know, it's up to that level. Nobody wanted to come train there because they thought that there were big guys there that would be better than them, and they wanted to be the biggest guy in their gym.
Yeah.
And that is why you will never be any better, because you're afraid to come train with people who are better. I was never afraid of that.
Yeah.
Until I saw people squatting 800 in person. It wasn't believable to me. You know, I see somebody double an 800 squat, and all of a sudden I'm like, damn. I can remember when Eric Lillibridge and I were chasing a 900 squat, which seems crazy now because he's blasting up thousands. But we were actually competing to see the first person who could squat 900. And it became believable because I'd do a session and post on YouTube, he'd do a session and post on YouTube. I went out and trained with him and squatted. And you start pushing each other. And then the same evolution happened when Derek Kendall started training with Eric Lillibridge. That's when they went from 900 to 1,000.
Yeah.
When those two guys were training together. And it was like, shit. You know, there's no limits when that starts to happen.
Yeah, those two are freaks.
Find yourself an Eric Lillibridge or a Derek Kendall, you know, at your level.
Yeah.
And go in there week after week and just beat the hell out of each other. And tell me you won't succeed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Man.
So that was a beautiful thing.
Well, Stan, it's awesome to have you on here. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all the information and stories you've shared with us. This type of stuff is stuff people should pay attention to and never forget.
I agree. Now, you got a 600 coming your way in March, so you know I hope you reach that goal, and I'm sure you already know that you just got a lot of work ahead of you to get there, and I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate it very much.